Assalamulaikum everyone. Welcome back to Project Manchala. For those of you joining for the very first time, my name is Mohammed Abbas Merchant. I am a photographer and filmmaker based in Karachi, Pakistan. This is part two of our two-part series with my friend Salman, where we basically go over some of the well-known trilogies in film. And we basically talk about our experiences with film in general and how we got to becoming the people that we are today. If you haven't watched part one as of yet, I would highly recommend it, although you don't need to follow this discussion, but I would recommend it. So let's just kick things off from where we left them last time, where basically we discussed quite a bit about how Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and films like these, they provided a sort of baseline for a lot of films to eventually follow, but were never quite able to replicate. And I really like the sort of things that we talked about, right? Okay, they built up a universe or a sort of cinematic universe, if you will. And there's a company that we always reference whenever we think about cinematic universes.
Whenever we talk about cinematic universes.
Yes. It's a specific Marvel.
This is Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, so something like an M.
Let me show you something. Give me a second. This is my Stanley Funko Pop.
Adorable. That is adorable. So yeah, today we are going to be talking about Marvel and the sort of cinematic empire that they've built. So, if we think about it in the complete baseline sense, the first movie that kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe would be Iron Man in 2008, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't know the years, but I do know the order.
But yeah, that movie was the baseline that basically started everything off. And then from there, they started doing things with Thor, Captain America, and then so on and so forth. So,
Hulk was absolutely next after Iron Man.
Do we count?
The Incredible Hulk. We do count it.
We do count it, but count it.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because actor changed and basically a whole character changed.
Yeah, they changed everything about it, and then they also changed the Hulk, if you really think about it, because...
Look, technically speaking, I count anything that has a Stan Lee cameo in it.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure even Scooby-Doo has had a Stan Lee cameo. Scooby-Doo is in the MCU.
You heard it here first, though. Scooby-Doo is part of the official MCU universe.
Yeah, they're probably on another Earth, but...
Yeah.
Dude, you know what that means?
What?
Scooby-Doo also had a cameo of Supernatural. Supernatural is canon to the MCU. So is John Cena and literally every wrestler ever.
Yeah, but then we can go even deeper, because Supernatural had stuff with Green Arrow, and now DC is part of the
Supernatural had a thing with Green Arrow?
Yeah.
When?
Back in his early days.
The hell?
Yeah, because this is the part of the CW wale shows. These CW shows had a crossover with everything.
I watched
all of it. Like very early days, season 1, season 2.
But I watched all of Arrow. I don't recall anything happening.
No, it was part of a Supernatural episode, not part of an Arrow episode.
Okay. But
you know how to decide, like, for example, Crisis 4 was part of the Flash universe, not the other ones.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Stuff like that. Yeah, continue.
So when we talk about cinematic universe, Marvel is one of the most successful in building up a platform wherein if you wanted, you could watch any of their films, Alexa, but then when you watch them all together, they build this cohesive, complete story. And it's brilliant that literally no one else has been able to replicate this sort of thing despite trying. DCEU has been trying to do it for years now. They started with Man of Steel, but that never really took off from the start because the audiences had a very mixed opinion of Man of Steel to begin with, right? People were just like, oh, but he killed Zod. His costume is
he's the bad guy.
His costume is dark blue. Like,
oh no, he doesn't. He's not wearing underwears outside of it.
Exactly. Is this even Superman? Do I even know this
Do I even know who this is?
super space man is?
I think DC was trying to be too unique, so they made a dark spin
DC
on
was also,
everything, while
yeah, they
Marvel
were
was the
trying to
charismatic
be
ones.
too dark for one thing,
Yeah,
literally and figuratively. Some of their movies genuinely cannot be watched because they're
I
too
can't
dark.
remember. Was Man of Steel also directed by Jack Snyder?
I don't know. Let's check right now.
Yeah, I'll check right now.
Are you checking or should I check?
I'll check. Man
Okay.
of Steel director.
Also, you
Yeah,
guys
it
gonna
is
have to
Jack
excuse me.
Snyder.
Yeah, so I mean, it's A. Snyder. Also, you guys are gonna
Yeah.
have to excuse me a little bit. I have a cold and I will periodically be blowing my nose to try not to
So
cough.
in the Project Manchala, what do you call, cinematic universe, was this episode recorded the day after or the same day as the other one?
This was recorded in an alternate universe.
All right. Yeah, in this one you have
Because,
a cold.
yes, and because in this one I have a cold, and then in the first one I didn't address it. Because
You
I thought I could play it
know,
off.
yeah, Sony tried to start a cinematic universe as well, right?
So I tried to do a lot of things and it didn't really work. We don't
No,
talk
with
about
the
Sony.
Mummy franchise.
Oh my
With the
god, that was
Mummy
so
franchise.
dumb. That's the problem with Sony. They try to do so many things that you
It
don't even know what you're
works though.
talking about.
I love the idea though.
I
A
mean,
cinematic universe of horror monsters. That is like the coolest thing ever. It's what that movie is doing right now. The Conjuring and Annabelle and all that movies. They're also part of a cinematic universe now.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I
Well,
would argue that the other ones don't work as well as the first ones, but it
mhm.
has potential.
I mean, they all technically have potential, right? But it comes
Yeah.
down to how well you execute it, right? Which
You
is something
executed,
that
and that Marvel is
Marvel
the
does
master.
way better than anyone else because literally no one has been able to incorporate a overarching storyline and like Marvel has done. And then I feel like a lot of the issues that DC has is that they don't have a figured out idea of what they want to do with their universe. If we consider the fact that, let's say, all of the solo movies were leading up to Darkseid, that would make sense, except
Yeah.
Aquaman
It
came
didn't. Yeah.
after Justice League. So, मतलब
They didn't take their
बोलना क्या?
time. So the problem that I see most of the times is that all of these new cinematic universe that are spawning due to the success of the MCU is that they're trying to make a cinematic universe first and movie
Mm-hmm.
second, which is
Mm-hmm.
a surefire way to make them fail. In
For
the other
sure.
end, Marvel had so many attempts to make a good superhero movie. We've had a first Avengers movie, we've had a Hulk movie, we've had a Thor movie before the MCU actually even started.
Mm-hmm.
With all of the things that they had learned, DC was already the king. They had come out and released Iron Man, which had become a new staple for superhero movies because before this, we only had Spider Man.
Okay, but I loved Spider-Man. Sam Raimi got
I
wrong
love
with
Spider
that.
Man too, but compared it to today's movie, that movie is campy as hell.
For sure, but it also did lay the groundwork for what a superhero
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
could and should be. And if we consider the fact that, which I mean something that I mentioned in literally the last episode, not our last episode, but the last episode that I released, DC comics over Marvel comics, but Marvel movies always over DC movies. It's a
yeah.
controversial opinion, but it's true. And if you
Yeah,
don't accept
it's
it,
true.
then you're just dumb.
We'll get into it later. It's a part of discussion because I do think a lot of fans do agree with your statement there. A
Mhm.
lot of them are typing in the comments right now, talking about how you're a DC shill. We'll see which one.
I mean,
We'll see who will
if
reach an
DC
article
wants to
first.
pay me for this episode, I'm down. DC, I'll
That'll be
drop
the
my
day.
bank details down in the comment in the
That'll be the
description.
day. I wouldn't be in university. I'd just be making podcasts every day.
We're just making this podcast and making money off of it.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the
Well,
day.
we're
You know,
living a
Red Letter
YouTuber
Media does
dream.
this. Red Letter Media. Have you seen their channel?
I have not.
Red Letter Media has this thing where they watch random ass movies that the fans have sent them and
Mhm.
literally watch them. All right.
Just
And it's like a whole podcasting and they make so much money off of it. It's a really good YouTube channel. You should check it out.
I will definitely give it a look. But
All
yeah,
right.
so we consider how Marvel has an overarching idea, right? Everything they were doing, they were leading up to Infinity War and then the Infinity Saga. when you consider the fact that initially जब भी movies आ रही थी, we had no idea what they were leading up to. We always had an idea, a rough idea, कि, oh, Thanos, ooh, what are they going to do? Ooh. But never in our wildest dreams could any of us anticipated they were
Yeah, the
actually going to
heights that was
do
reached.
this snap. They were
Yeah.
actually going to wipe out half of the entire universe.
Yeah.
It's amazing the lengths Marvel is willing to go through for their work, and then the extent that they're willing to go through to make something good. DC, although willing to go to extents, doesn't know how to do it. One of the things that Marvel does really, really well is casting. They they cast brilliant actors who aren't just actors by the end of their tenure. They are the characters that they portray. Can you ever imagine anyone else except Robert Downey Jr. ever playing Iron Man?
No, it's the same way you wouldn't imagine anyone other than Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
they're a master
have
of cast.
these.
Disney, let's talk about that as well. They have
Mm-hmm,
had a history of casting perfect characters for their Disney movies, for their Disney
mm-hmm,
TV shows. All of them has
and,
always had the perfect cast, and no one actually felt out of place. And
mm-hmm.
applying that into what they have learned into their new movies, it's wow.
And then we also consider okay, although DC has had some brilliant work done, I would arguably say DC TV shows were much better off than Marvel TV shows. I
Are we
have
talking
not,
about the CW ones?
yes, all the CW shows
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. So the DC cinematic universe
is
of the
much
TV show
better.
ones, yeah, are much better executed than the
Yeah.
ones in Marvel. Because while Marvel TV shows stand really well on its own, we've had
Mm-hmm,
a few of them. Daredevil, the
mm-hmm.
bad ones are the Agents of Shield, and what's
I
that
personally
one?
enjoyed Agents of Shield. I actually didn't mind
Yeah,
it. I
but
actually
it doesn't
enjoyed it.
hold a candle to
Daredevil,
Daredevil.
Daredevil,
Yeah,
whatnot. But
yeah,
then
because
I
and
feel
they
like
canceled that.
Daredevil and Agents of Shield are the only two good ones that are legit worth watching if you want to watch something. Apart from that, the rest aren't really noteworthy in my personal opinion. I tried to
Yeah,
get into them. I didn't personally enjoy them. Whereas some of my
and none
friends
of them ended
genuinely enjoy some
properly.
of them. Yeah, because they all got canceled last minute. Actually, no, wait,
Yeah,
wait, wait. Another suggestion: The Punisher. Worth
yeah.
it.
Yeah, but again,
Beautiful.
after one season, they ended it.
That was
They
just
were
Netflix being
such good
dumbasses, to be quite
shows.
honest.
They got so
That's
pissed at
Netflix
Netflix
being
because they were
idiots.
starting their own,
Yeah,
service.
technical difficulties, but we have a little bit of a change of scenery and a little bit of a different angle. So for those of you
Yeah,
watching the video, but yeah,
yeah.
let's get
So
back to
sorry
it.
about that.
No
Yeah,
worries. And yeah, so we were talking about how it's very interesting that the DC TV verse, the Arrowverse as it's better known, is much better off than anything Marvel has tried to offer, which they did try to offer. They tried to form a TV verse with Luke Cage, Daredevil, what's his Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, and then also the Punisher, and that was fine. But I think that's just about it, right? It was just fine. Like
yeah. It was just
don't.
yeah. They were just fine. Nothing, too groundbreaking with them.
Mm-hmm,
But the way that the Arrowverse, as they call it, has done it is they keep having these major events every 1 year, kind of like the Avenger movies. We've
mm-hmm,
had Crisis on Earth 1, Crisis on Earth 2, and stuff like that, where all of these cinematic universes came together to provide a
mm-hmm,
more, link together. Like if you take one of those shows individually, they're not really that strong. They keep getting more convoluted and
mm-hmm,
crap the more they go on.
mm-hmm,
But the way that they have integrated the cinematic universe, it's a lot better than what Marvel has done in their TV shows as well.
mm-hmm. And then you also consider the fact that even standalone, the shows are always interlinked. If something happens in the Flash, if it's big enough that it affects, let's say, the entire city or the entire world, you see the effects of it in Arrow and vice versa, right?
Yeah,
Something happens in Supergirl, uski effects aren't as prominent because it's different, but like it's on a different Earth, but you do see the effects panning
yeah.
out.
I would say that's a really good point because all of these TV shows are a lot more smaller scale, so you get to
Mhm.
see the events that it caused for in first person. Meanwhile, the movies, they don't really focus on the world building that much. We don't really see the stakes.
Exactly.
It's like, oh no, New York destroyed, bye bye. And meanwhile, in this one, you have actual character deaths, actual places being destroyed because these people are part of the quote unquote hood.
Exactly. And then you see the after effects, you see the aftermath, you see how people are reacting. And I feel like one of the biggest advantages that TV actors have over film actors is that they have more time to connect with audiences and establish themselves as,
Yeah.
a viable candidate for who they're portraying. Grant Gustin, who plays Barry Allen, is personally
Yeah, yeah.
one of my
My favorite
favorite
Flash as well.
actors,
Yeah.
and he is so brilliant. When they were initially announcing the castings for the Flash for the Justice League movie, people wanted to have him on
Yeah.
as the Flash. There were arguments going back and forth about whether he should do it or not, and I was personally one of those people who believed he should, until I was brought up with the perspective, okay, but देखो, we also need to keep in mind for film actors, they have about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to connect with audiences, whereas
Yeah.
TV actors get 40 minutes, and then they also get an entire season to connect with audiences.
Yeah. And
People
all of
who are going
these
to be
people
seeing
haven't
Grant Gustin
really,
for the
yeah.
first time, are they going to be able to connect with him in just 2 hours?
Yeah, I guess
That's a
that's true as well
very
because TV
important argument to
actors,
consider.
yeah, TV actors do get the time to actually build into their role. Even if they started
Mhm.
off as being hated, they actually come into the terms of being loved. A very prominent example of this is Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, who was once one of the most hated additions to the Star Wars canon, but is now one of the most beloved, to the point where people are cheering like crazy that she is now in The Mandalorian.
Mhm. It's amazing when you see characters or actors, better yet, actually, who are personally just treated in a very mixed reception. A very good example of this recurrently happening is with Doctor Who. Every couple of seasons, the Doctor changes,
Yeah,
and you have
and
people going
everyone
like,
hates them. Yeah.
they're like, "Oh my God, no! Why you changed my favorite? Never gonna like you." And then literally one season down, they're like, "Oh my God, you're my favorite Doctor. I love you." Like
My favorite.
yeah, like it's like the biggest example of this would definitely be either Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor or Peter Capaldi as the 12th. You have examples that are back to back, just leading up with brilliant performance. You have Matt Smith coming after the iconic David Tennant as the 10th, and then you have Peter Capaldi coming after Matt Smith's Doctor that was more relatable than any Doctor has prior been. So there's constant, like it's because the Doctor becomes a part of you. He is,
Synonymous. Yeah.
yeah, he's your doctor. That's how a lot of people refer to Ten as. Okay, this was our doctor. And then when Matt Smith came on board, people were just like, what the hell? Who is this chiggy
Coming
man?
back, coming back to the whole argument about British TV shows and movies. Another prominent
Hmm.
movie series that keeps changing actors after every few movies.
Which one?
James Bond.
Very good example. Very good
Yeah,
example.
and yeah. So I just noticed that as well. So like, yeah, it's a very popular thing in British media to keep changing the actors,
And
I think.
it's also interesting to consider the fact that there was speculation that Idris Elba was supposed to be the next James Bond, but people bullied that
Oh, I love that
suggestion
idea.
so much that they had to back out. Was it actually announced that he was for sure going to be the next James Bond, or was that just rumors?
No, I'm pretty sure that was just speculations at that point, but
Hmm.
it would have been badass if he was. But oh
Dude, it would have
no,
been amazing.
my British 007 that has been played by American actors all this time can't be black. It's like what the hell up
No, no,
with
it's not
that
even just
argument?
that. All my actors who have all been white, how dare you say James Bond is going to be black and tall and have an
Okay,
accent that
apparently
could
people are telling me that the Google servers are down.
what?
Yeah,
That's
the Google just
fun.
died. Yeah, that's why my internet's also down for some reason, I guess.
Like,
So,
okay,
hmm,
guys, this is the end of the world. This is the start of the end of the world. Google has gone down, and my podcast is
yeah.
the first news
Yeah,
source that
the
is
the
reporting
only the only
this.
thing that you can watch now. We should start Twitch streaming.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh God. Okay.
Shit, wait, if Google is down, that means YouTube is down.
No, it'll come back. It'll come back,
I
obviously,
mean,
in like
yeah, but
5 minutes.
YouTube is one of the biggest platforms that my content is consumed on.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh no, that 1 hour nobody got to watch your brand new video. What's
Exactly.
gonna happen now? Yeah, I saw you just posted an episode in the morning as well. I haven't seen it
Yes,
yet.
yes, I did. It's amazing how consistent I've gotten in the past week.
Uh,
Like, there's a new episode literally
we're
every other day.
Yeah, we're going very off topic. So let's go back into focusing on it. So yeah, we were talking about how Marvel has made a lot of advancements into making
Mhm.
sure that their cinematic universe is well defined. But let's just talk about the cinematic universe in general. I feel like we skipped over that. Let's talk about what makes a cinematic universe so emotionally captivating.
Mhm. So I think the biggest thing that they do well is their actors and their characters, there's no distinction between them. Each individual movie has its own part, has its own thing that ends up,
Feel. Yeah.
yeah, that ends up playing to the overall narrative. But standalone, it's brilliant on its own. That's what eventually plays out to this major story, right? A very brilliant example of this would be Spider-Man 3 that's set to come out in, I believe, 2021, unless I'm mistaken. That's essentially
Yeah.
going to open up the doors to the, what do you call it? Wait, is it Infinite Earths or is it, wait, or
It's
is it,
the Infinite Earth. It's the
yeah,
Infinite
so they're
Earth.
opening up the doors to the Infinite Earths theory for Marvel, which leaves them room to literally do anything and everything under the
Anything
sun.
that they can have, which opens it up to so much.
A point
I
that I
have a
addressed
feeling that,
in today's
yeah.
episode is that Marvel has decided to not recast T'Challa, which I believe is a very beautiful and very smart move to pay respects to Chadwick Boseman. But I personally believe that T'Challa's story is not over. And if they do decide to go
Yeah,
to the Infinite Earth storyline, this opens up an opportunity for them to get another T'Challa from another Earth.
that brings another thing into question. CGI T'Challa, CGI Chadwick Boseman. They've done it before. What stops them
They've
this time?
they've done it, but I feel like it's gonna get a lot more negative backlash
Yeah,
than
negative feedback
last
if they do
time
it. It's different compared
because
to Carrie
the
Fisher or
last
yeah,
Carrie Fisher or even Paul Walker, I feel like those were done as tributes, and it was supposed to be
yeah. If
to
they do it
say
right now, it would be
goodbye.
done as money. Yeah,
It would obviously be done just for the money, and it would be done in very poor taste. It's barely been any time at all, and the man passed away from cancer. So it's not the smartest thing, and I would personally not
yeah,
be comfortable watching that. If
yeah.
the
But we
start of
keep
it is
forgetting
just a
how
tribute,
yeah we keep forgetting how tone deaf corporations sometimes can be. So
see, but
who
then
the hell knows?
we also need to consider okay, one of the corporations that are in charge is run by Kevin Feige, a man who is a comic book nerd himself.
Yeah,
Though Feige, I mean, at least I hope okay,
yeah.
Feige wouldn't sign off on this sort of
On
decision.
something like that. Yeah,
Because I mean, he's not a moron. He gave us the Infinity Saga, so the man knows what he's
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So,
Going back to the cinematic war thing. So I think the reason that makes a cinematic war, what do you call it, a cinematic universe so endearing to so many people is the same reason why we have such fandoms for Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
mhm,
As we talked before, when you try to watch a Star Wars movie, not everyone is going to enjoy them. If you try
mhm,
involving something to episode 4, 5, 6, not
mhm,
everyone's going to like them. It's always the things that are built around those central movies that people get
mhm,
ingrained into. Someone told me once that Star Wars it has such a prevalent in pop culture because it has something for everyone. It has mature games, it has kids games, it has dark TV shows, light TV shows, it has space simulators, it
mhm,
has literally everything for someone that they become a part of that universe even if they don't like the core movies that it was based on. Same with Lord of the Rings, as you were saying before, with Shadow of Mordor and Shadow
mhm.
of I forgot the
War.
second one's name, Shadow of War. So with that said, with cinematic universe, not everyone is going to vibe with Iron Man, but
Mhm,
by introducing so many avenues for so many people to get interested in, it allows you to get what do you mean, invested
mhm,
in a universe that you normally wouldn't be when you
mhm.
have representation done of your own race, characters, or class, basically.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point to make, right? And that I think comes back to Chadwick Boseman and then the representation that he provided to African Americans or just the African community in general. You could see a black man who has had to struggle to get where he is today, and seeing
Yeah.
all the awards and all the accolades that Black Panther got was
I genuinely think
amazing.
he deserved it. Have you seen him in Infinity? Whoa, what was his first debut? Civil War. When he was
Mhm.
in that movie, he stole that movie. He
Dude, it
is,
was like he's supposed to be the king, right? He had
yeah.
that
He
presence.
had a king voice.
You
He had that
could
Idris Elba
you could
presence.
see, yeah, this is something different. The king is
Yeah,
here, and it
yeah.
was amazing. And I was genuinely very very sad when I got to know that it had occurred
Yeah, Chadwick.
because
It happened out of nowhere. Honest to God,
and
rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You died way too early for this world.
the fact that I personally have not been able to follow his career leading up to this point really, really upsets me. And I do have a plan to go back and watch some of his earlier movies because a lot of people were talking about how well they were done and just what he'd done because it was amazing what he was able to do in a very short time. And then seeing his accolades play out as a highlight reel is just so upsetting because you see these actors who have basically shaped our childhood, right? That comes back to why you and I got into this because this is why we do it, right? To provide an opportunity for kids like us to have something to look up to and just fall in love with. Films are a window into our souls that allow us an opportunity to learn, to grow, to laugh, as I was saying. So it comes back to how Chadwick's portrayal of T'Challa, Black Panther, really resonated with a lot of young black men. You will
Yeah,
see these men stepping up to fill these roles very, very soon. And that's coming back to how Marvel casts brilliant people and sometimes taking huge risks. When RDJ was
yeah.
cast as Iron Man, it was a huge risk. He had a bunch of drug issues, he had a bunch of issues going on in his personal life.
He's
But the
honestly
fact
another Johnny Depp. Yeah,
he's honestly another Johnny Depp. The man
yeah,
puts himself into his roles and he's genuinely brilliant. I wouldn't
yeah,
speak to the kind of person he is personally, but he's a brilliant actor.
yeah.
And
I
that's
would
what
say that
makes
as
these
well.
universes go above and beyond. And that's what DC
You
is
were,
currently lacking. Okay, they don't have these characters that are relatable to the audience. The only one DC actor that I personally am enjoying right now in the cinematic universe is Jason Momoa. To be completely honest, I'm not enjoying
yeah,
anyone else. There is
yeah,
no
because
one
he's the
else.
only one with any storm of charisma in his roles,
And
I guess.
personality.
Yeah,
He's the only
maybe
one with personality.
The Flash actor will do well as well, but
Yeah,
like we haven't seen him
my
in anything
issue is
standalone.
Ezra Miller is a good actor, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure he's a Flash fan as well. But my issue is he's not everyone's actor. You know how some
yeah,
actors have that thing where they appeal to just a niche, and that's what
everyone.
they end up
Yeah,
becoming. That's what I'm afraid of with him because I've seen some of his movies, and he's a good actor. I've seen him in person being a wallflower. I've seen him in Harry Potter. He's a good actor, but he's not everyone's actor. And that's
yeah.
my worry. You're giving him the
I get
role
what you're
of
saying.
Barry Allen, the first
It has
synonymous
to be
black.
like a, it has to be like a Peter Parker actor, someone that can apply to
It
everyone,
has to be
basically.
a Peter
Yeah,
Parker actor.
yeah. I
It
think that
needs to
is
be
a
someone
great
that,
reference as well. Yeah,
because it needs to be someone who becomes the face of
yeah,
that name. Currently, when you think of Barry Allen, everyone thinks of Grant Gustin.
yeah.
If you are a Flash
Because
fan,
he
you
is
always
the
think of Grant
everyman.
Gustin.
Mm.
He's the every person's Flash. That's
You can't have a role like what do you call the Flash and Spider-Man and like cast what do you call Chris
Chris
Pratt
Pratt.
into it. You just can't. Yeah,
Exactly. There's a certain type, right? And then, which is ironic because if we consider, let's say Hugh Jackman, he's too tall to play Wolverine. If you consider it, he's over 6 feet
yeah,
tall. Wolverine is supposed to be really short, but it works, right? Because
yeah,
he made that character into his own. At the time that he portrayed the character wasn't as synonymous as it is today. So maybe Ezra Miller might make the Flash a little more synonymous than it is, but the Flash is already very synonymous. You have a hit
Yeah.
TV show that's running literally right now as you're working on this movie. So it's going to be interesting to see it. But
To see how they do it.
I was also I was having a conversation very recently with a friend of mine, where it comes down to when is straying from the source material okay when it comes to casting actors. So what's your opinion on that? Okay, for example, let's say the Flash ideally is supposed to be blonde, blue eyes, white. Barry Allen, whereas portrayed by Grant Gustin, brown hair, brown eyes, very thin build, but he's still white.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller,
Yeah.
whereas looks very Asian, black hair, brown eyes. So when is it okay?
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the Asian American angle, but I will say that he just doesn't feel like an everyman, like you once said. Because then you also have to consider like someone like Miles Morales. I
Mhm.
think people have a problem when you change the character in general rather than just make an alternative to it.
Mhm.
It's like,
But
for
in
example,
the
if
sense
someone were
that
to cast,
mhm,
yeah, someone were to cast Peter Parker as a black man, everyone would be genuinely, a lot of arrogant white males would be
mhm,
genuinely pissed about it,
mhm,
because it's the character that they grew up with, and they
mhm,
suddenly cannot resonate with someone on its rate, which again is an
mhm,
understandable statement,
mhm,
because it's this character that you want to see in the big screen, but now suddenly he's
mhm,
a different race, so he's out of your ability to resonate with.
mhm,
So I do understand why these privileged people do feel like,
mhm,
that they can't resonate with a character that
mhm,
much. So in the same line, I would say, yeah, when you cast someone of a different race into a character, there is going to be backlash, and I don't know a way to do it very efficiently, I think.
mhm. Because वही अब मुझे भी फिर बात हुई आज दिन कि I'm like okay, but is this now straying from the source material? What's the limit? You know? तो फिर बात वही आ जाती है कि although the actor does not, like, the actor's just playing the character, they're not supposed to be the character. It shouldn't make a difference. A very good example of that would be the musical play Hamilton, where literally all of the characters are supposed to be white, but they're played by persons of color and just people
Hmm.
of every ethnicity under the sun. So it's a very
Yeah.
interesting take, right? There's only one white person who very ironically or unironically plays King George. So it's brilliant the way that they've gone about it, right?
Yeah,
So
I would understand why people would feel villainized on that.
yeah, so there's
We're
two different
speaking as brown
takes.
Pakistani men, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine. We can
Yeah.
say we're a minority. It's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a very interesting take, and it comes down to how open-minded you are and how willing to accept things as you are, as things as they are. But फिर बात वही आ जाती है ना कि जो भी हो, जैसा भी हो, at
English,
the end
English,
of the
English,
day,
English.
so whoever you pick, however they are or whatever they're doing, at the end of it, it needs to come down to, they need to be the right fit for the role. I don't
Yeah,
mind if
100%.
the person who's playing Peter Parker is black. I don't care if he's brown. I don't
Yeah,
care if
it
he's
just
yellow.
needs to be the everyman.
He needs to feel like Peter Parker.
Yeah,
He needs to
100%.
feel like whoever he's playing. So,
Another thing with that, I'll add to you.
mhm,
I'll add to you. Another thing that makes the cinematic universe that's such good, it comes back to the whole argument that we had about episodes. So the way that TV shows work is that we introduce these new heroes and we have a lot of time to make people love these characters. And the
mhm,
way I see Marvel Cinematic Universe movies working is like extremely long Sunday morning TV shows.
mhm,
What I mean is that the entirety of MCU is a TV show, right? But
mhm,
every single episode needs to have a plot on its own, and it needs to
mhm,
resolve that plot by the end of it, like a Sunday morning
mhm,
cartoon.
mhm,
So it's really interesting to see that the whole cinematic universe is this mixture of modern movies, modern television, and Sunday morning TV shows, where they
mhm,
have to have a whole cohesive plot, like a Rick and Morty episode, and
mhm,
manage to fit in all of it, so that it has a contained story within that one arc. And in terms of that, Marvel deserves praise because that is not an easy thing to do because TV shows themselves are hard to work. And now when you have to consider all three of these things, it's impossible. It's mind-boggling. And when you hear the stories about how they manage that stuff, how they have a whole department where you have to ask permission for stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, yeah, continue.
And then you also need to consider key in that one movie, they also have to build an entire world. They also need to build these actors. They also need to establish key players in this world. And then all of it just comes back to that main universe. It's amazing
Yeah,
the way they're able to do it. The MCU and then the Arrowverse are brilliant in the way that they are building
let's
their worlds and their narratives.
let's talk about what makes the end game such a good conclusion to Act Two of the MCU.
For sure.
What does
Oh,
it do?
there's
Yeah, it's all the amount of foreshadowing, all of the stuff that comes together in the end. Let's
the
talk about that.
fact that you had people in the main Marvel, like admin or whatever you'd call them, that they were sowing the seeds of the ending from the start. The fact that you can go back and watch all of these old movies and find hidden Easter eggs that eventually lead up to this point, some of them that haven't even been explored as of
Yeah,
yet, that are still yet to
it's
be
like a
explored.
great TV show. It's like an amazing
Yeah,
TV show
so
like
it's like
Breaking Bad or Mr. Robot.
exactly. And then another example of just doing things really, really well is again God of War. I feel like God of War is something that I'm always going to keep
Yeah,
coming back to
it's a
because
cinematic
it's
masterpiece. I'll say that much.
a masterpiece because you have a director like Cory Barlog, who is at the helm, and the man has left so much to dissect. It's everywhere. So there's a YouTube channel that I follow on, who I follow and listen to, Captain Cuba. I'll add his channel in the
I've
description.
seen his videos.
They're so good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
The
so good.
fact
I've
that the
only seen like
dude
one essay on like something, but I can't remember which one.
genuinely, like, you should
Yeah,
give his stuff a listen because the dude dissects so many things all at once that I personally never saw. And I'm just like, what? And they make sense. The fact that he is able to pinpoint so many things, he's actually gotten recognized by Cory Barlog and the God of War team on numerous instances. And
damn.
he's a relatively small YouTuber right now. I think he's like below 100,000 subscribers. But
Yeah,
he's genuinely so good with how he analyzes and picks things out. I would not be surprised if he's already figured out Dothan details of the next game. Like, I genuinely feel like okay, he has
yeah,
already
because
figured
he'd
out
be
the
able to
details.
figure out all of the plot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
like he's
then
a level beyond us movie watchers. He knows
mhm,
what's gonna happen. He doesn't have to
he's like, oh, mujhe
guess.
pata hai. I've already made my notes. I'm not going to be surprised by
I
anything.
know.
But it's
Yeah,
interesting, Gabe, when we talk about foreshadowing and plot points, right? Like if anyone's played God of War that are listening right now, in the first cutscene where what's his name? Balder
Kratos,
is at the
Baldur.
hut, when Kratos puts Atreus in the bunker, you can see the
Yeah,
blades hidden underneath the
yeah, right
floorboards.
there. Yeah,
They're
I
right
noticed that because
there.
I just played it.
Yeah, so it's right there for anyone who's curious enough to see. And there's a
We need to
lot
have
of
a
things
whole episode of
just talk
cinematic
about God of
storytelling
War.
as video games. No,
Oh
just
my
video
God,
games.
yes, for sure, for
Because
sure.
it's a media that people just don't give the recognition to because it
People still
has
think
the
video
ability
games
to
are for
immerse
kids,
you.
and
Yeah,
that is so not true. It's so
yeah,
not
it
true.
has the ability to immerse you unlike any other medium on this planet. I would say video games do it better than VR as well because VR still has
Mm-hmm.
that jank that you can't
Mm-hmm.
manage to get over. But the way video game stories manage to immerse you in it, because it's like a mix of everything, a long narrative, episodes, immersion, is like a mixture of everything coming
And it
together to
also
make this.
puts you
Yeah,
in the character's shoes. You genuinely feel like it's your life on the line,
yeah.
that you're the
So
hero.
yeah, you are the hero. You don't even have to be the hero. There are stuff that make you feel like a
Mm-hmm.
commoner. Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of them. You are
Mm-hmm.
literally a commoner. You are a loser. Until the end of the story, you remain a loser.
But yeah, so games have this power that allow us to be a part of the universe that we always wished we were able to. Watching Marvel movies reignites the inner child in all of us that wishes he would
Yeah,
be a superhero, because we see these superheroes now going through troubles that we do as everyday people. We see Tony Stark in
yeah,
Iron Man 3 suffering from PTSD from the
yeah.
Avengers. And it's an amazing thing to see
Which
these.
leads up to the events of Civil War as well, because his
Mhm,
PTSD causes him to, sign up to the Sokovia Accords.
mhm. So you have
Sokovia
these
Accords, or
people
yeah,
that who are human at the end of the day, and it makes
yeah,
it more relatable. It just comes down to all the weaknesses that all these other universes have. They in theory they sound great, and in theory they probably be great, but
yeah, but they're
it's just
not
that
done
one
well.
thing. They're just that
It
one
needs to
thing.
have a central director in charge of everything to make
Kevin
it work
Feige.
that well.
Kevin
Yeah, Kevin
Feige.
Feige in that case. So let's wrap this up. Also, let's just put a plug into that mention of I am Iron Man scene that plugs into the first
Oof.
ever ending of the first ever MCU movies, and the amount of forethought, that emotions that go up to it, because you see this
And
character
it's
in
amazing
every
when you
single Marvel
consider.
movie.
It's
Yeah.
amazing to consider that Robert Downey Jr. improvised that scene.
Did he?
He improvised it. It was not in
Oh
the
my
script.
God. Oh my God. Imagine the
And
director like, God, the fuck you doing, Robert? Get the fuck out of here.
and then when Robert Downey Jr. was like, wait, one more time. I have an idea. And then that man is so brilliant. Okay, he's done
Yeah.
that multiple times on set, and they just kept it. They just kept
You
it.
know he hates his in-screen wife, right? What's her name?
Gwyneth
Gwyneth
Paltrow,
Paltrow. Yeah,
like the person or the actor.
he, the person, he absolutely hates her. He can't stand working with her. They
Why?
both had so many complaints with each other. That's why they keep removing her from the movies and bringing her back.
What the hell? I didn't know that.
That is why she wasn't there in Civil War. They had like a dispute.
You're kidding me. I did not know
No.
that. Wow, that is insane.
Yeah, they absolutely hate each other because he sees Gwyneth Paltrow as this realist and like she is weird, and Robert Downey
Hmm.
Jr. just can't accept that. Stuff like that. I won't get into it. I don't know the master of it. So let's move on to the Star Wars universe that Disney is trying to make into a cinematic universe at the moment.
Mm,
Because I can see that your lights are going and it's like completely dark.
yes, I'm losing light now. My
No,
key
don't
light.
worry. We'll do like 20 minutes more and then just call it a day.
But yeah, so I'm honestly just I'm iffy on it. It's again, I feel like they're very ambitious. It could go in the right direction, but it's risk. It's a very
It's the
big risk.
same, yeah, it's the same issue that the DCU made. They made a movie, they made a whole cinematic universe over a movie.
Before they made a
They
movie.
had three different directors for all three movies. They had JJ Abrams for the first one, Ryan Johnson for the second one, JJ Abrams again for the first one, and they kept changing it based on what the fans wanted. No, don't do that. The fans
Do
are
what you
stupid.
want.
Yeah, exactly. The fans are bloody idiots. If Ryan Johnson
And
had
then
another
the fact that they
episode,
couldn't
yeah,
go all in with one vision, either go
yeah,
completely dark or go
yeah,
light. You can't
or
do.
bring Palpatine back from the grave with no explanation whatsoever.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just
Yeah,
make
but then there's
Snoke easy to kick ass. Like, I mean, yeah, let Kenobi kick his ass for no reason.
yeah, who's Star Wars Jesus at the moment? Dave Filoni, I think his name is.
I don't know.
Okay, so Dave Filoni is the person that is in charge of the Clone Wars, the Mandalorian, the new Ashoka show, every
No,
single
wait,
thing.
that's not him. That's
Yeah,
the
it is
other
him.
dude.
No, he's basically the creative director and everything.
Wait, hang on. He's the dude who plays Happy, no?
No, Dave Filoni is a
Wait,
director.
no, wait, hang on. Dave,
Filoni.
hang on. Yes.
Yeah, he has worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Mandalorian, and
Hmm,
the series Star Wars: The Clone War.
that is interesting.
He is basically the Kevin Feige for the Star Wars universe that is in charge of mixing all of these things together.
I
And
thought it was John Favreau.
it is also him. It's like both of them.
Or John Favreau.
But like most of the,
The man
yeah,
is.
most of the praise is Yeah, most of the praise goes to this guy because he's the more comic lover, the one who
John
makes the
Favreau or
more
the other
PR
dude?
experience. Dave Filoni.
That's unfair though, because John Favreau puts in a lot of
Yeah, that
work.
is unfair. I feel like it should go to both of them. So
Because John
the
Favreau is
thing is,
genuinely an amazing director. He's directed so many good MCU movies, and he's also cameoed in those movies.
yeah,
You can't you can't ignore that. Like
you
that's
can't go
just
wrong with him.
not cool.
So Dave Filoni comes in. They call him in after the end of the last movie to make the Mandalorian,
Mm-hmm.
because they had gotten. He came before the last movie, but basically
Mm-hmm.
that happened. So the Mandalorian somehow, the TV show that had the least amount of stakes in the Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
universe, turned out to be the prime treasure of the Disney cinematic Star Wars universe.
And the production quality that they have with that,
Yeah,
that's
the
easily comparable to some of the best movies that are being
do
released
you
right
know the
now.
green screen technique they used? Have you seen that video?
No.
The way their green screen technique work, it's like revolutionary. They have a camera, they have an actor, and with the camera moving, there's a screen in the back that changes the scene
Mm-hmm.
to match the character in the foreground.
Oh wow.
You need to see this. You need to see Mandalorian backgrounds, and you'll find it. It's so revolutionary. I think there's only two movies that have used it so far. We have the Mandalorian, and we have a very certain movie by Tom Cruise. I can't remember which one it is.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So they use all of these cinematic techniques with realistic figures and stuff like that that managed to make this show stand out amongst all of its peers. And now Dave Filoni is in charge of everything, with including the Mandalorian, the new Ashoka Tano TV show, the
Mm-hmm.
new Bad Batch, the Clone Wars season 6 finale that they brought back just because of the fan demand. And it's all
Although,
thanks
like
to
when
this
you
guy, Dave
have people
Filoni.
who know what they're doing, that have a very
Yeah,
clear vision of how to make the cinematic universe work, that's when you strike
yeah.
gold. The fact that these people
Let's plug in.
want this and care about this
Yeah.
and are able to do these sorts of things.
Let's plug in CGI and then let's end the stream. So
Mm-hmm.
CGI, the way that I see, works only if you're hiding it. So like plugging back to episode 1, I forgot to talk about this. So the first movie in Lord of the Rings used CGI very sparingly. They hit the
Mm-hmm.
Balrog before he came, the giant red monster thing.
Mm-hmm.
Flaw, you fools.
Mm-hmm.
Until they actually showed him, but he was like shrouded in darkness so that you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see him. Similarly, the first Jurassic Park movies also used CGI in a similar manner,
Mm-hmm.
where if they had a full CGI model, they were shrouded in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so what happens in the last Lord of the Rings movie is that they overdo the CGI. We have
Mm-hmm.
wonky physics that make no sense, with Legolas
Mm-hmm.
going down the trunk of a
Mm-hmm.
elephant, arrowing everyone, or
Okay, but that was
jumping off a
amazing
bridge.
though. That looked
It is
insane though.
amazing, but it removes your disbelief in a world that is meant to be immersive.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
You also had them
similarly, the prequels,
sliding down on a shield from the
yeah,
steps or something.
yeah. The prequel Star Wars movie and the normal Star Wars movies also used a lot of practical effects, but CGI. But the
Mm-hmm.
later ones did so many CGIs. The way I see this happening, that the Lord of the Rings, the first movie, will still hold up 50 years from now, but the third one, it won't. Jurassic World, it won't, but Jurassic Park, it will.
Mm-hmm. And then
Yeah,
बात करें बोले
sorry, I
Rajni,
had
you
to
also
add that
need to
in.
know the people who you're working with, they know what they're doing. Just that you mentioned the Balrog, right? So the
Yeah,
people that are working on it were brilliant. They also used a lot of loopholes to get the sort of look that they wanted. And
yeah,
it was very difficult to, for one thing, animate, obviously, given the time. But some of the technology that we have now, it wasn't available to us. Right now, you and I could probably figure out how to do it just by ourselves. I could probably make the design roughly on my MacBook and then probably render it out on my PC. So
yeah.
you and I sitting at home could probably do it. But at the time, it was a stroke of brilliance. And they had to figure out loopholes to make the thing work. And it looks good. It looks
Yeah,
good
it
and it
looks
will hold up.
great. There
Smeagol
was a
will
whole
hold up.
theory. Yeah, there was a whole theory about directors are their best when they have limited resources to work with.
Oh, for sure. They figured out
Yeah.
so many loopholes and so many ways to make things work. It's
So
amazing.
that comes to the future proofing of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is used to overdo CGI like to the max.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think the MCU CGI will last?
honestly, the way that they're going about it right now, if they're
with
planning
Black
on
Panther's
going,
ending and stuff like that.
if they're going to space, it's going to be very difficult to not overdo it. It's going to be very difficult. I
Yeah,
personally feel
I
like
would give it about, yeah.
they're on their way to just overdoing it very, very soon because
Yeah, in
they've
20 years, I
told,
think the original
yeah,
Marvel, the original Iron Man movie will just look like crap.
hmm like it's not gonna work. But I mean,
And you
it
can't even,
works right
yeah,
now, somewhat, I guess.
yeah. And that brings us to another topic of like 4K rendering old movies. You have movies like
Mm-hmm.
Apocalypse Now that are filmed entirely practical, and you can take
Mm-hmm.
the original reels of those films and upscale it to 8K. But with movies like these, you can get the original film upscaled to a higher resolution. But what the fuck do you do about the CGI parts?
And then that also ruins the sort of texturing and the look that the director wanted with the original film because a majority of them keep the limitations of technology and the time that they're producing for in mind. Reproducing Lord of the Rings in 8K is going to be a really, really dumb decision because you're going to lose
Yeah,
the texture, you're going to lose the colors, you're
yeah,
going to lose the look that Peter Jackson wanted. So it's about figuring out what works and what is right. Technology is
uh,
moving way faster than people are able to adapt to. That has its own sets of challenges, and I feel like filmmakers are feeling those challenges before anyone else because they have
yeah.
to future-proof their films.
Let's close this topic up now. So MCU,
Yes.
brilliant filmmaking. Star Wars, not so much. Lord of the Rings, really
DC,
good.
DC, poop,
DC, not so much.
and ending
So
with the
yeah,
same controversial statement that I started this episode with: DC
no,
Comics over
don't.
Marvel Comics.
I've heard my professor is really good, loves stuff. Okay, coming to that, I
He's
would
entitled
say
to his
yeah.
opinions.
Yeah, he's entitled to his opinions. So I would say that, yeah, you're right on that. I would say in terms of entire storytellings,
Mm-hmm.
DC does it better. You know, the entire arc with death
They're
of the
also more
family
interesting.
and stuff like that. Yeah. But with actual character creations, the creativity based on that, I
Mm-hmm.
think Marvel does that better because it's a lot
Marvel does a
more
lot better.
realistic.
I just enjoy DC Comics more.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I'm just adding to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I
So yeah,
love
DC
Stanley's
Comics over Marvel
creations a lot
Comics,
more. Yeah, Stanley's
but
creations are always
Marvel
going to be
movies over
iconic.
DC movies any day,
Yeah, okay. So
unless they're
let's end this
animated.
topic. Do you want to plug anything in?
But yeah, no, I think that's just about it. I think we're just done. Do you want to? I think we're
Yeah.
gonna end it right there.
No.
So
I think we're gonna end. I don't want my professor to fall asleep, so that'll be
he's
fine.
like, listen, please shut up.
Yeah, please shut up about
Yeah.
his Marvel DC crap. I
But
want to
yeah,
hear about actual movies.
yeah, like good
It'll be
movies.
fine. Good movies. It'll
Slumdog
It'll be
Millionaire.
fine. He's chill. I've talked to him. He's really fun.
But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We hope you enjoyed this two-part series, and we hope that you are not getting tired of seeing Salman on the podcast another time. This is gonna be the
Hey, I'm
fourth
just gonna
episode that he's on
out of
for.
sheer circumstance, I have like become a very regular occurrence in this.
Literally
I
the
just
fourth
texted
episode
you
that he's
one
been
day.
on.
Yeah. I just texted you one day, hey, can I be like, okay, dude. And then you're like, oh, let's talk about this next topic and next topic. And now we're here.
You're probably gonna become like a staple of the podcast until we have to make like a
It's
separate
fun. It's fun.
podcast
It's
just
free.
for
It's fun.
us.
I'm with you. It's absolutely fun to do. We can have more guest overs as well. It's fun.
For sure, man. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we're gonna end this episode here. We hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more episodes with me and probably Saman eventually down the line.
All right.
Take
Take
care,
it. That's
everyone,
done.
and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Again, been fighting.